Hi, this is Donna. Welcome to DD Paper Crafts, and in today's video we're going to be making this picnic basket style gift box with two hinge lids like so. The box is one complete box. The width of the box at the base is 7.5 inches, which goes up to 9.25 inches, and the overall height is 4 inches. I will show you in the video how I've added my elements, i.e. the frill around the outside and completing the decoration on the inside. So without further ado, let's get started. We're going to start by creating the front and back panels for the picnic basket. I'm using craft card and I've already run mine through a basket weave embossing folder, and then I'm going to be decorating the inside, which is going to add the strength. For the front and back panels, you'll need two pieces which are 10.5 by 4.5. Along the top, make a pencil mark at 1.25 inches and 9.25 inches. And we're going to start by cutting the diagonals for the shape of the front and back panels. I'm going to take my trimmer. You can use scissors if you're more comfortable. I'm going to place my piece in the trimmer so that I'm going to get a cut between the top pencil line and the bottom corner of the card, like so. So you can just see my pencil line here, and I'm just cutting diagonally. I'll repeat on the other end. So this is the first part of our basket. I'm now going to place the basket so that the diagonal is up against the edge of the board, and I'm going to score at 1/2 inch, like so. Rotate 180 degrees and score at 1/2 inch. Once you've added your score lines to your outer sections, rotate your piece and along what is now along the 4.5 inch side, score at 1/2 to create your bottom glue tab. Fold and burnish your score lines, and I am having to be quite gentle with mine because my embossing folder has created some cuts. You can see here in the card, so I'm just folding gently. Take your scissors, just cut off the top edge of the tab, and then remove the bottom left and right hand intersecting corners and cut a wedge from the glue tabs. So this is our front or our back panel, so you want to do that twice. For the two end panels, you'll need two pieces which are 4 5/8 by 4, and along the 4 5/8 inch side, score at 1/2 inch. Fold and burnish along the score line and cut a wedge from the ends of the glue tabs. And for the base, you'll need a piece which is 7.25 by 4. We're now going to construct our box base. I'm using tape, so I've removed the backing from this end, and I'm just going to line up my score line and burnish my smaller side panel into place. Take my second long piece, remove the backing, and I'm lining up the bottom score lines because I can always trim the top if I need to. Move to the last one. I'm going to now add my side panels onto my base piece, and I'm going to have the tabs on the inside. I'm just going to line this up, work my way around. Obviously the disadvantage of using tape is I don't get the wiggle room that I would normally get using glue. You may find it easier to add each of your pieces independently to the base and then join the tabs together. You find whichever way works easiest for you. There's no right or wrong way. You'll end up with the same result. It's just a different method of construction. I'm going to add in the last side. So I'm going to tuck my tab in, work on my side tab. Obviously this part in particular would be easier with glue. Get my side tab in place and then go in and work on the base tab. That is essentially our picnic basket base. For the cross member, you'll need a piece which is 5 by 1.5, and along the 5-inch side score at 1/2 and 4.5. Fold and burnish your tabs. I'm going to take the inside of the box, and I just need to work out where the middle is. So I'm going to make a pencil mark at 4 5/8. So that's the middle. Do the same this side. The middle of my cross member is 3/4. So I'm going to make a pencil mark at 3/4 either end. If you're planning on adding DSP to the outside of the box, you can now add your cross member. If you're planning on adding your DSP, as I am, to the inside of the box, I'm going to decorate the inside of the box before I add the cross member. If you would like to make your inside similar to mine, if you start with the original sizes of the outer box and take off 1/4 inch and then do your 1/2 inch score lines at either end, that should make the box near enough the right size to fit in. I've cut each piece one at a time, and before I glued everything together, I've slotted it into its relevant side to make sure that it fits. I've added all the bits together, but all the glue tabs are on the outside so that your inside is clean. But I did, as I went along, have to slightly adjust the heights, etc. So you may need to play around. And so you can see this does fit in to here. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to cover the inner in construction glue, and then going to sit it inside, and then before the construction glue dries, I'm going to create the cross member and I'm going to line it up, and it's going to sit inside, in between the outer cover and the inner cover. I've covered all the sides and the base in the construction glue. I'm going to sit the inner in, push that up against the sides. I'm going to just sit my cross member in place, lining up the pencil marks, and then push the inner over the top. I'm just going to pull this one back, line up my pencil marks, push the inner over the top. So that's it. I will now go in with my burnish tool and just press sides down. I'm going to set that aside to dry completely, and whilst that's drying, I'm going to create the frill element, which is going to run around the outside and over the top of the basket. And I'm going to add all of this section around the top edge of the box before I make the top flaps, because I may need to adjust the sizes accordingly. Now, obviously, if you're decorating the outside of your box and you're not doing the same effect at mine, none of this is relevant to you. But if you are going to recreate the same effect, I need to take into account of the fact that I'm now going to have 3 pieces of DSP effectively within the inside of the box on each of the sides. So I'm going to carry on adding my frill, and then when I've come back, I'll put the lid pieces on. Alternatively, skip this section and move straight to the lid piece. I've broken this down into 6 sections. The 2 side pieces here were 4 inches, and on mine, the gap between the cross member and the outer edge was 3 7/8 of an inch. Onto the 4 sections here, I've added a 1/2 inch tab. So these sections are 4 3/8 of an inch. And I've made each piece 2 1/4 inches wide. I've got my 2 remaining pieces to add in. I've cut my 2 remaining pieces, which are 4 3/8 by 2 1/4. I'm going to score along the long side at 1/2 inch and the short side at 3/4 of an inch and 1 3/4 of an inch. Fold and burnish, and then within the 1/2 inch glue tab on the short side, I'm going to cut up each of the score lines to create 3 glue tabs and just shape those and cut a wedge to create my tabs. I'm taking my piece from the basket. I'm going to add glue to my glue tabs and adhere this onto the other end, making sure it is lined up and that my score lines are aligned. I'm going to fold the 1/2 inch tab and just fold that in and just burnish that to make sure it's as it should be. And then once that's dry, I'm just going to sit it in place. I'm going to wrap it around and push the corners inside and just make sure that it fits. And then if I need to, I can make any adjustments. So that fits in there nicely. So I'm now going to go ahead and glue those into position. For the lid pieces, I would start with a piece which is 4.5 by 5, because if you've made yours the same as mine, you may need to adjust yours differently depending on the cardstock that you've used to decorate the inside. Along the 4.5 inch side, score at 1/2 inch, and along the 5 inch side, score at 1/2 inch and 4.5 inches. Fold and burnish. Remove the bottom left and right hand corners, and I'm going to take a slight wedge from either ends at the bottom is where the glue tabs are, and a slight wedge from the top, which I may then have to adjust. Now you can either have your tab on the top and then add something over this, or have your tab under the bottom so that it's hidden. It depends how you're planning on decorating. So if we assume that you're going to have your piece, tuck your side tabs in, push your hand in underneath and just hold it so that your score line is level with the outer edge of the cross member. And I can see that on this side, I can see that I need to take some off of this edge here. So I'm going to do that first, and once I can get the side tabs in, I can then see whether I need to actually adjust the length of the panel completely. So let's slot this back under here, line everything up, push the side pieces in. If I do it this way, it might be easier to show you. So my score line and my cross member is aligned. This is assuming that the tab's underneath, and I can see that my flap is just slightly too long. You can see that that's not going to go in there. So I'm going to trim 1/8 inch off of the end. That's if you have the tab underneath. If you have the tab on top, I can sit the tab on top. I can work from the other end. So get my piece lined up in the right place. Make sure that my side tabs at this end are sitting in, and then I can see that I can just glue this into place on the top. It is easier if you have the tab on the top, but you might not like the aesthetics of that. You might want to have the tab underneath. So I'm going to have my tabs underneath. So I'm going to take 1/8 inch off of this, reshape my tabs, and again I'm going to go back in, push my side tabs to the inside of the basket, line my score line up, and I can now see that that fits. If aesthetically you prefer the tab underneath, that's fine, but you might need to adjust your top lid pieces, and I would work on each one independently. So I'm going to have a finger notch in the top, so I'm just going to mark my halfway point. I've added my construction glue. In fact, I'm going to add more because I know that this soaks in. Push my side tabs in, push my tab under, line my score line and the cross member up. I'm just going to fold that back and grab that in place. I'm going to press that in and just make sure that that does fit in, and then I've still got time to adjust if I need to. So I'm going to let that dry and work on the handle. For the handle, I've cut 2 strips which are 1 inch wide by the length of A4, and I've just run them through a different embossing folder, and I've just attached 2 pieces together to create the strength, and I've adhered those together with construction glue, and I've just measured up 3/4 of an inch from the end and stuck these either side. I'm just going to finish my final bits of embellishment, and then I will come back and show you the finished project. Here's the finished piece. The only additional embellishment I've added is some ribbon bows, so it looks as if it's stretched between. I have managed to adhere some of the ribbon to the inside, which I did by pulling this bit back, but it was fiddly. So if you're going to add the bows, I would at least adhere enough of a length of a ribbon to create the bows earlier before you stick these pieces in, so that you can access the strip under here. And that's of course if you're going to be decorating it the same way as me. I did recut a cross member without the 1/2 inch tabs, which I've added onto the top, and the only reason I've done that is because I was excessive with the glue. You can see here there is some staining of the glue, which I don't expect to fade. I have tried to get rid of it with my glue eraser. The 2 flaps open like so. There's plenty of room inside. I think it's a really sweet gift box, and if you were to fill this with maybe some jam, maybe some shortbread biscuits, a little pot of clotted cream, some fruit flavoured tea bags, I think it is a really nice gift packaging idea, and I'm really happy with how this one's come out. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. If you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing to the channel, and until next time, thanks for watching.